Hello and welcome to ongoing election coverage by Town Meeting Television. My name is Emily Brewer and I will be moderating tonight's forum for Burlington Ward 2 City Council candidate Jean Bergman, who is running unopposed as a progressive. This is one of many forums we are bringing you in advance of local elections and Town Meeting Day on the first Tuesday in March 1st, 2022. Town meeting is traditionally where voters weigh in on local government representation, municipal budgets, school budgets, and local ballot items. All candidates on the ballot are invited to participate in Town Meeting TV election forums. Town Meeting TV election forums introduce you to community decision makers and connect you with the issues that shape your local community. If you are watching this live, we would love to hear your questions at 802-862-3966. Watch Town Meeting TV on Comcast Channel 1087, Burlington Telecom's Channel 17 and 217, as well as online at Town Meeting TV's YouTube page. With that said, we'll get started with tonight's discussion. Jean, can you please tell us, actually, my bad. Jean, we'll start with an opening statement from you, and then we'll get going on the questions.
Sure. Well, I was a city councilor when Bernie was the mayor, and I served as an assistant city attorney for 20 years. So my wife, Wendy Coe, says that I know how this government works and how it can be better and how I can help people learn how to do the same. It's one of the reasons that I've, thought about and decided to run. Other people have asked me to run because since I retired 3 years ago, I used my experience to help community members on things like the just cause eviction and the independent police discipline board, the fair and impartial policing policy, and very important to me to stop the privatization of the Church Street marketplace. And others said, you should really run because you've worked with city councilors to pass and draft important initiatives like on reappraisal. So I guess that I'm really excited about trying to use all this experience, all these connections to deal with some serious challenges that we have. We've got a housing and tax affordability crisis, climate change, systemic racism, economic inequality, public safety, and that's really a lot. So I hope that the difference that I can make is to propose and pass some meaningful policies and programs to effectively deal with those problems. And then also, and I think this is really important, at least for me, to expand what we believe in the city is reasonable and possible. And to be really frank about that, what I mean is that blind faith in the market and austerity and a small caretaker government limited to just doing a few things, I believe is killing our communities. Affordability does not mean cut. It means being innovative and acting with urgency that these problems demand. It means investing in the future. It means being frugal. It means being efficient and mindful of how we spend the people's money. But it really is about democracy and engagement. And I think that we have fallen down on these things to a large extent, and I hope the difference I can make is to help change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean, for that. I'll kind of follow that up with a first question here. With democracy seemingly under threat and local democracy strained by high emotions and tensions over a variety of issues, how do you see your role as a city councilor in helping to strengthen community relationships and serve all in our community?
So, I mean, the first thing that a councilor has to do is really be mindful of their constituents. It means being engaged. And that's something that I really hope to do. So when I was a city councilor for Ward 2 a long time ago, we did regular newsletters, and I'm going to continue to try to reach out to folks. I reached out, for example, on the Front Porch Forum regarding my opposition to the appointment of John Moret as the permanent chief the other day, because I thought that it was important for people to hear from me. So the NPA, CCTV, those are all ways to connect with people. The other thing in terms of democracy that I'd really like to do is to have the city experiment more with direct and participatory democracy. And, one of the things that's happening in town right now is the Proposition 0, where people are arguing for the right of Burlington voters to adopt ordinances like the voters in Winooski have the right to do. And I'd support that. I'd like to see that happen. I'd also like to have us really look at what is called participatory budgeting. It's a process that the public gets a big role in how to decide how to spend public money. In fact, it's really similar to town meeting across Vermont, where, people come together and they look at the budget, how much you pay for a plow. Do we need a new grader for the road? It's a little different here in Burlington, and we don't have that type of direct democracy on our money. It is something that Max Tracy and Karina Driscoll called for recently, and I would like to see that we can sort of push that. We do that a little bit with the NPAs, where they give small grants and people vote on that. But I'd like to begin a process that has us explore moving down that path. So those are my ideas on democracy and engagement.
Thank you very much, Gene. Kind of going off one of those threads, I'm curious what your you've already said what your opinion is on the appointment of Chief John Murad. What is your vision for community safety, and how will you support that as a city councilor?
Yeah, and people can go to Monday's Front Porch Forum and see the reasons that I did. And if we have time, I could go back over those, or if those is what people want. So, the fact of the matter is he's going to be the chief for the foreseeable future. That's what the mayor said. And, and he and the mayor say they are committed to public safety transformation. I think that is something that I support. And, so I guess that what I believe is that we have to test that, and that would be great. And we've got to test that with councilors being at the table, with commissioners being at the table, and the community being at the table. In terms of the future, where we go, you heard on Monday night, 3 commissioners, actually 4 commissioners, speak about relations that could be really improved with the chief, and including one person who said that she believed that he learned from these bad experiences. So I think that there's a lot that could be done with regard to just those relations. But let me just speak to a number of particulars. I really want to have community oversight. And to me, this means giving the police commission the authority to really monitor and audit the department. They don't really have that right now. And I think that's been a tension because there's been resistance to that. We need to have charter changes to do that. And we do that as a council. So I would be very supportive and would like to work with folks on that. I worked with people for police accountability on getting an independent community discipline board through the city council to get it to the voters. The mayor vetoed that, but I really believe that that is appropriate and something that we should have. And I'm going to try to do all I can to bring or support that chart, bring that charter change forward again, or support it getting there. Public safety also means rooting out racial bias in the department. And you heard that conversation on Monday night. So we have got to change the way that officers interact with Black and other people of color. We've got to reduce the harm. We've got to get our police department to be seen by all communities as really serving and protecting the people. That is not necessarily the case right now. And that's where the Public Safety Committee of the Council is really the key institution to monitor that and hold the chief and the mayor and the department accountable. But the other sort of like, remember I talked about not having a limited vision, right? Sort of expanding what we think is reasonable. And let me say that, investing in health and economic well-being is absolutely essential, because you just can't have a safe community without people feeling economically secure. I mean, when people are doing well economically or health-wise, mental health-wise, they don't go out robbing people. They don't go out beating people. The number of psychopaths, of sociopaths, is just very, very small. Yes, we need a police department in my view, but it's not like there's a bunch of mass murderers out there. There are people that really do things that are driven to them because of issues related to mental health, related to economic insecurity. It's especially true for youth. So we, I think, have got to follow up on the racial transformation resolution and really invest in frontline mental health workers, social workers. We've got to change this situation where police are being asked to be those mental health officers, be those social workers, be the points of contact for the homeless population. And they're just not suited for that. So the budget has got to reflect that investment. We've got to make that transformation. And when we do these things, then we can do that within the context of having a right-sized department. And I think that, you know, they've increased the number of authorized of officers to 79. I don't believe that includes the airport. We've now got to look to see to get to that point. We're down low. So I think that we definitely need to improve the morale of the department. And we need to really look at officers and the roles that they play, because there is a lot of danger that's associated with that. But let me sort of end by saying part of the problem with the decay in morale, I believe, is related to fear mongering that's going on. And I think that we've got to turn down the drumbeat of crisis and turn up the sound of progress and reform. People are looking for us to stop the rancor and to bring ourselves together, our community together. And, you know, I had done that. I worked with officers as an assistant city attorney. I worked with community activists on accountability, and I've worked with councilors and commissioners on oversight. So I hope that I'll be able to play a positive role. Obviously, one councilor can only do so much, but I think that if we focus on the positive stuff, if we don't make everything seems like it's a crisis. And I talk to folks who are, you know, live out of town. They go, what's happening with Burlington? It's like their crime waves are, you know, are sweeping the city. And I just don't think that that is true. I don't think the numbers added up. And I just think that it's not helpful. And I would really hope that the people who are doing that will just turn down that drumbeat of crisis and turn up the sound of progress and reform. And I've obviously gone far longer than we should.
Well, that's completely all right. I think a lot of what you said addressed a lot of common themes in the questions that I was going to ask anyways. So I didn't want to cut you off.
I appreciate that, but you can, because I can go
on. Sort of going off of one of the threads there, and you've already addressed it a little bit, but where do you see opportunities for addressing racial justice in the city, and how will you use the city council seat to meet this challenge?
You know, I think that the council and the mayor have done a really good job of standing up the racial equity, inclusion, and belonging office. And that office has I think it's a great roadmap that is really, really important for us to be able to follow. There are things related to the community, and our focus on say home ownership. You know, one of the things that we need to do in town is improve housing security for Black and brown people. And a large part of that means improving access to home ownership, because, you know, the truth of the matter is that owning a home is the most important way that people get to build generational wealth. And they're like 4% of the homeowners in the city are Black. And according to the city's equity report that was published in 2019, 83% of the Black applicants were turned down for a home loan. That's outrageous. Now, there may be economic reasons for that, but if that's the case, then that's where we need to be working with the lending agencies. We need to be using our housing trust fund. We need to be really doing a better job of focusing on the reasons for that and then overcoming them. So I really think that getting more BIPOC home ownership is something we need to do. We need to have a much more rigorous economic justice effort to support BIPOC-owned businesses and jobs and opportunities, especially for youth. You know, when youth have the feeling that they've got a future, they do amazing things. And when there's hopelessness, then you get lots of problems. So I really think those are the main areas that we should be working on in terms of racial justice at this point. We have some work to do within the city as well, but that is in terms of the community as a whole, where I'd like us to be spending more energy.
Thank you very much. So we have a few more minutes left here. I'll ask one more question and then I'll give you a chance to do a quick closing and we'll wrap up. So Max Tracy, the current Ward 2 city councilor, has said that he couldn't stand the pressure of city council. Have you had a chance to talk with him at all about why he's leaving? Or do you feel like you will be able to withstand said pressure that city councilors are currently facing?
It's a great question. I mean, Max and I have chatted. I think that one of the problems that he faced was being council president. That is a very hard time, a hard job. And under COVID, it's doubly so. And with all of the fervor related to George Floyd's murder, you know, it's exponentially greater. I believe that I can do that, but it is not something that I don't think is really serious to deal with. You know, the health of people who are asked to do this fundamentally volunteer job is really important to be able to maintain. I do have to say that I have taken up meditation. And I think that will be a big help. This 5x5 or 5 square breathing technique is really important. There are some other tools that I might be able to have and to bring to bear. And the fact that I was a city councilor, that I was a city attorney for a really long time, that I've been involved in the political process for as long as I have, gives me some legs up. But absolutely, I mean, I feel for everybody. And it is actually, it's sort of, that's a segue into one other policy matter, which is, you know, we ask people to be our elected representatives, and the job in Burlington is just a whole lot. And most, you know, virtually everybody, I retired, so I have the ability to sort of do this, but you got a job. Max has a job. Every other counselor on there, virtually every counselor has a job. They've got families. I mean, I now take care of grandkids, but it's not the same. So it would be really helpful, I think, for us as a city to consider raising the salary. If we care about democracy, then we got to pay for the work. It's what I said in terms of you can't, affordability is not cut. So if we want to have people who can devote the time, if we demand that they do the work, that they are in touch with us, that they learn all these things, that they go to all these meetings, that they are thoughtful and not just rubber stamps to an administration whose full-time job it is to run the city, then we got to think about paying folks. And I mean, Jane Stromberg, who's not running, again, raised this with the Charter Change Committee. And I was really actually quite pleased that Mark Barlow was speaking there and said that he was rethinking his opposition to that, which is as a knee-jerk political response makes perfect sense. You don't spend people's money, don't give yourself raises, you're just feather bedding or just patting your own nest. I can't remember the exact words, but we want normal working people to be able to do this, and to do that we gotta give them more than the what's maybe a $5 to $10 an hour that we're spending. So that's my mental health. Breathe and pay people.
Well, thank you very much, Jean. Unless you would like to add some closing statement, we are out of time. Would you like to add anything?
I would sort of leave it to you. I guess that what I would say, since this is an opportunity to chat with people and this is going to be broadcast, is that I just want to let people out there know that they're not alone. We have got counselors and candidates who are willing to challenge the system and push for big changes, but also push for smaller and essential things that need to be done. There are people from both sides of the aisle who seem to be willing to join to do that, to make things happen. And that is really important. The truth of the matter is the status quo, the system is not going to change on its own. It's hard work, but it is absolutely essential if we're going to keep the city livable for ourselves and our kids. And in terms of climate change, we've got to do it to keep the planet habitable for our babies and for most other life on the planet. So I hope that I can participate in making some of that happen. And to find more out, and I'll end with this, about my platform and stuff, you can go to jeanbergmanforcitycouncil.org, and I've got some more specificity there on a bunch of things that we haven't talked about, including the tax increase. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Jean Bergman, for participating in tonight's Ward 2 City Council Election Forum. Thank you all for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's ongoing election coverage. You can find more at www.ch17.tv. Don't forget to vote on or before Tuesday, March 1st. Burlington will be mailing absentee ballots to registered voters. And if you don't receive that by Wednesday, February 16th, please contact your clerk and treasurer's office. And polls will also be open all day on March 1st from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you very much for watching.